Welcome to BoneChat discussion number 39. We're thrilled to have Tony Pascalacqua here today. He's the founder and CEO of OrthoEx. OrthoEx is a specialized orthopedic third-party logistics service company. And it's something everybody needs when you start commercializing and before you do. So handing the mic over to Tony. Welcome.
Well, I appreciate it. So I want to start with my background. I appreciate you inviting me in. So I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. My background was 16 years at UPS and FedEx as a senior manager, running two of the four largest, operations in the company. And after that, I got recruited over to Stryker. I did 12 years of hard time at Stryker. Ran the kind of the Western United States for the orthopedic trauma division. We probably handled 1,000 cases a week amongst 5 different locations. And in that period of time, I learned quite a bit. And then we flipped it to a distributor. And then, how distributors work. And so I became a little available to the industry. At that point in time, I was kind of talking to a gentleman named Josh Sandberg, who I became partners with. And we launched OrthoEx along with some other companies. And Josh had seen, and we had seen this gap. And this gap with startups is the fact that, okay, I got a great idea. I got a surgeon and I got this entire, commercialization I need to happen. And how do I go about doing that? So we built a group of companies that kind of fit in that mold. Am I allowed to share my slide deck? I don't know what
please do.
Here yet.
Yeah,
absolutely. So
absolutely.
I just want to make sure that I can
Tony's got very few slides and it's right to the point, which is great.
Yes. So hopefully you can see the business overview slide right now. All right, I appreciate it. So OrthoEx is part of a medtech incubator, and I'll move over to medtech incubator. So as you can see here, it starts with MedTech Intel, which is a market intelligence company. It houses and holds probably 11,000 distributors in it. Every orthopedic and trauma surgeon in the country. It tries to link all the fellows together. It will give you kind of market intel when you're trying to launch into it. OSP Advisors is a market access and a corporate structure. Kind of helps you build out your corporate structure, helps get on the GPO and gain market access. And then there's OrthoEx, and I'm the president of OrthoEx. We handle operations and logistics for all types of different companies, startups, so trauma, spine, biologics, all of that. And within that, we do all the management of inventory. Within that, we have Surgical Health that manages your instrument trays, your implants, your consignments, your billings at the hospital. We'll manage your POs, expiration date, shipping, and freight. And so that's all kind of wound up into OrthoEx and Sergio. And then this year we launched Ortho Books. And so we'll go order to cash on that. So we can collect your POs. We can manage your books, provide, back office support in, providing reports all the way from accounting to CFO level type of accounting. So like I said, this is our kind of medtech incubator, the group that we're in, but I'm the president of OrthoEx. So I'm going to switch over to OrthoEx because that's what I really care about. Veteran-owned business. We're in Scottsdale, Arizona. We just moved into a 25,000 square foot warehouse. We specialize in inventory management, instruments, implant movement, all of that type of environment. So one of the things that has set us apart is we're focused on the startup. Okay. And so we understand that it takes a ton of capital to get a product to market, to get an instrument implant to gain that traction in the market. So we're very startup friendly with the way we structure our contracts. But we specialize in all the things that you see on the screen here: inventory management, national loaners, warehouse and distribution, initial importing. So that's kind of where OrthoEx sits in its core, business. I think we cater to the small, more complicated companies. I have 9 dedicated employees that this is what they do on a daily basis. And so, it's streamlined, it's seamless. So when your customers or distributors want to reach out and get inventory and implants and all of that, we work hand in hand with the manufacturer's quality system. As you can see, we're 13485 qualified. So on this portion of it, I'll stop, pause, take a breath, and let you ask any questions about what OrthoEx can do for you, or anything that you may have a question on. Anybody?
Hey,
Well,
Anthony, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, there we are.
yeah, Tom.
Yes.
Question for you, related to sending banks out. We have disposable products all in a single tray. They go out in banks. And those a lot of times come back to us. They don't really stay in the field. So send in for a case and it comes back so we can control the inventory. Are you guys prepared to do something like that?
That's our core business.
Okay.
So that is part of our core business. So that's the national owners part right here.
Mm-hmm.
So in the national owners, second one box down, that's really what Surgio Health is. It was built specifically to manage what we do, what you do as a company. So national loaners manage consignment. So you may have a mix of consigned inventory and a mix of national loaners. So we can handle the replenishment and the inventory management on the consigned locations, and then we can ship out your loaners and bring them back, track them, track how long they've been aging in the field, replenish them, get them back up, and turn them back around in the same day.
All right, great, thank you.
Good question. Do you guys handle biologics
Yes.
at all, Tony? Like dealing with storage of orthopedic implants in the heat and vibration?
So we are a tissue bank now. So we have tissue license in every state. Florida was probably the most difficult. We're still waiting for one thing to come back, but we currently have tissue license across the US. We have 4 biologics company that we do ambient temperature biologic shipping for them, and we can do temperature controlled shipping, but not cold chain. We're not stepping into that market. So we're staying away from cold chain at this point.
And what is cold chain? Explain that to people like me that don't understand.
So if it had to be shipped at like 50 below and monitored the whole time and all
liquid
of that,
nitrogen kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're not getting into that realm. We can ship it if it's, let's say it's on ice or you wanted a temperature control, but you had a specific SOP that you wanted it packed, we'll handle that. So our quality system covers all the requirements of 13485, but it will also incorporate any SOPs that any of the companies that they have. So we were able to mirror those SOPs, and we have a way of tracking it and training our team on it.
So
Mark, I think you
kind
have
of
a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Mark?
Where are your warehouses?
We're out of Scottsdale, so we have one warehouse.
Everything's
in
there?
Scottsdale. Yeah. And that I believe it's a competitive advantage because, one, we don't have weather disturbances out of Arizona. We can route things around any hub closures for FedEx and UPS. And we also have a time zone advantage over everyone, which allows us, if you're on the East Coast, your 5 o'clock, your 3, 4, 5 o'clock billings will get replenished on the same day. And we support the West Coast. So the California, distributors can get the same day. So you don't have, you actually reduce your carrying costs because of the fact that we're on the West Coast. And one of the things that I didn't mention is because of the amount of product we ship, we have a very large discount with FedEx. We pass the greater portion of that discount on to the companies that we do business with. And so that delta from, maybe your 30% discount you have now to my discount covers probably 50 to 70% of my operational charge or the fee that you would incur by using us.
Tony, I have a quick question. Do you operate outside the U.S. as well?
As in Do I have I have a partner that works in Europe that we refer to. So if you're trying to get into the European Union, I have a business selling relationship with a company that mirrors our product line, our service line exactly through OrthoEx, and I can introduce you to them, and then they will help, work through all of the requirements you need to distribute in Europe.
Great, but nothing in Latin or South America yet?
I can ship into Latin and South America, but I don't have a footprint there.
Great.
So if
Okay.
you had a distributor, I can export to them, but I don't really have a warehousing or distribution in any of those countries.
Great. Thank you.
So Tony, tell us kind of a day in the life of a SKU. So whether if it's a sterile packed implant or an instrument tray, so what actually happens? So, there's a surgery in, Chicago on, next Thursday. So how do you guys get the order and how does it fulfilled? And then how do you get it back? This is way over my head, logistics.
Yeah,
Trying to
not a
understand.
problem. Yeah, it's kind of what I do. So we just kind of go from let's say it's a national owner. So let's just say you're just starting up and you're trying to build a footprint. So you dump all your instruments into OrthoEx and all your implants. What a distributor would do is they would reach out, request implants and instruments. We would ship them to them. So we would fulfill them based upon their request. They can do it via email or they could do it via the software package, either one. And so then we would put the case together and ship it to the distributor based upon his delivery date. And then when he does the case, obviously he's going to have a bill sheet. He's going to fill out his bill sheet, lot code, part number, and then he would either take a picture of it, email it to us, or upload it into the Sergio platform. But either way, they can do it either way. And at that point in time, we would process that, enter the bill sheet. If you engaged OrthoBooks at that point in time, if a PO was provided, we could invoice the company or the hospital at that particular point in time. So when we get the bill sheet, we would enter it into Sergio, then that would update all your inventory. So it would update the quantity in the national owner that is out. It would update your inventory table. We would prepare the replenishment. They would already have labels to ship it back to us. They ship it back to us. We would pull the inventory that was used. We'd verify all the quantities of the implants, and we'd go through and inspect all the instruments. We do all of it twice. That's our protocol, so that we have an initial inspector, and then we have a second inspection, so that all the instruments have been, validated and checked that they're in the set and that they're clean and operational before they go out. And at that point in time, we would wrap the setup, put it on the shelf, and that would be done. Now, if it was a distributor that had a consignment, he would just handle his business, fill out his case, send us the bill sheet, and then we would send out replenishments via FedEx. If he had multiple cases, we would bundle them together and send them out as one shipment. So we probably we're up to about 30 to 35 shipments a day on replenishments, and we probably do 6 to 8, maybe 10, 12 loaners. We have I'll show you in a little bit. We have like 19 customers with probably 6 have a graduated timeline for coming on. So our pipeline's pretty strong, which that lends to the level of quality that we've been producing and the value that we provide. Because our services, to be honest with you, all told, are probably less than a full-time head. And that's the thing, is you can't beat. So I beat almost everybody because I have economies of scale, right? So as you're trying to grow your company, as you're trying to grow your business, you're getting 1 or 2 or 3 cases a week, right? That's, to my operational team, that's 15, 20 minutes, right? And I can build it into, across all 8 of my employees. And so I win on the economies of scale. So I'm able to pass that cost reduction through to all these different startups. And so that's where the value add is.
Got it. So let's talk about costs. So let's say we have a new startup and let's just say they're doing 10 surgeries a month to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that cost? Is the charge, is it a monthly charge? Is it a transaction charge?
It's both. So
Okay.
I have a base, what we call account management fee that pays for our expertise, our 13485, the building and everything, the infrastructure to go around it. So it's kind of a base fee. And then there's a amount of space fee. So it's a shelving fee that as you grow, we grow, right? And so if you take up one rack, then you get charged for one rack. If you take up two racks, then it's a two rack fee. And so as you grow your inventory and your business grows, then that expense grows, right? And so that's why I say we're very startup friendly, is the fact that um, I have the account management fee, which is a not, I would say it's not an exorbitant amount to do business with us, right? So the barrier to entry is very low. And typically for startups, I'll do a 24-month a ramp up. So I'll start at a very low figure because you're going to have a very low footprint. And then that figure will go up. So you're not using a ton of capital, because you're just burning at that point in time if you're not churning cases. And then there's a transaction fee. And the transaction fee would be for a national loaner, there's a certain fee. And then for doing replenishments on consignment, there's a fee. You know what I mean? And so they're all encompassed. And so we try to roll it all together and make it as simple as possible.
Got it.
But like I said, 10 cases a week with one shelving unit and 10 sets, I would venture to say you would be less than $5,000 a month. I mean, that's my
Wow.
best guess, right? And that would
Yeah.
probably, depending on what service levels you're shipping stuff, and you would, that would change your bill because, some companies use standard overnight, some companies use 2 day. So, hey,
So
you
kind
know,
of 5,000 a month to get started, but it could kind of go up to 10,000 a month
yeah, no, and
with a
some
lot
of
of
the bills, I
transactions.
mean, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, are one of our biggest customers. Their bill kind of teeters around $35,000, but they're doing 160 cases a month.
Wow. Got it.
Yeah,
There,
so
Asher's got a comment or a question.
Yeah, I was gonna say just to chime in anecdotally, we ran the math when we signed on with OrthoEx. They saved us like $500,000 for year one. So I mean, it's a lot of money for an early stage startup.
how you doing, Osher? I appreciate
Wow.
Hey, Tony.
It's a great endorsement there. Wow. And so that you take that working capital and you can put it back into new product development or sales or whatever
Parties, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
parties.
yeah, parties. But then think about the amount of time and energy that the leadership team has to spend on setting something up, right? And so that's that you don't know like what that actual cost is. So, cost of, avoidance isn't even really factored into that unless, you know what I mean? And so you're, as a CEO or the sales leader or whomever it is, knowing that all you have to do is send in an email to get your stuff to show up. You don't have to worry about the building. You don't have to worry about pest control. You don't have to worry about, having the fire company come out and check. You don't have to worry about an inventory management platform. All those things that become very, way down, commercialization, they're all taken for. It's latchkey. It's built in. So that's the advantage we have. So that's where we
So,
sit.
Tony, I have a question as well. So we're actually going through an audit right now. Do you have auditors come through for these other companies
Yes.
and federal, estate, we're in California. Okay.
Yeah. So we've actually been audited by the FDA,
Mhm.
for cause from a company that we are partners with.
Mhm.
And they came in and they found zero defects. We get audited because of our 13485 every 2 years. I think actually because of our last audit, we're on a 3-year cycle. We
Mhm.
just got audited last year, and passed with, I think, 3 or 4 minor findings. They're always going to find something. That's what their jobs are, but it always just makes us better. And then one of the really kind of things that separates us from other companies is the fact that we use Surgio Health to track all your implants and instruments. So we track it down to lots. Okay. So all your implants are tracked to lots. And if your platform and your quality system requires us to track your instruments to the lot code, we have the ability to do that in Surgio Health. But the difference of it is that that inventory platform it's your account, not my account. So at any given time, any one of your team can sign on and see your inventory, your sales, see everything that goes on. So you have full visibility. That's the difference. We set ourselves apart from the other companies that do this by giving you 100% full visibility. And if you ever were to grow up to be a big boy company and you wanted to start your own operations and you wanted to do your own thing, one, you can take that platform, move it over to your newfound operation and start up and start running it. And to be honest with you, if you paid me a couple extra bucks, I would come in and do some consulting to help train your people on how to use the system. That's the concept of where we set it up. We founded the company with the idea that companies would grow up and kind of be big boy companies, but we haven't gotten to a threshold yet to where anybody wants to leave us. And so that's kind of the neat part about it is why, if you're at 8, 10, 12, 20 million, and we're still supporting you flawlessly, and we can do it at a cheaper rate than you can, then why would you want to leave? Like that, it just doesn't make sense. But we're more than willing to help you transition out in the end of the day.
Is there a specific account rep? So I'm just thinking, one of my guys calling in and saying, okay, I need to talk to Tony, or I need to talk to whoever, right?
Yeah. So we have 8 employees, and everyone is assigned to one specific person. And then there's always a backup trained, but then everyone is trained across the board. So we'll rotate that backup person so that there's always multiple people trained on every account. And to be honest with you, I go train on accounts also. So I will go down and become very familiar because, if something were to happen and, I built the system, I better know how to use the system. So, in that sense of it. So everyone here is very well aware of what goes on. And on top of that, we built Sergio with a lot of little caveats in it, a lot of little what I call sticky notes, so that the tribal knowledge doesn't get held with inside of a person, it gets held with inside of your platform. So when you have a Dr. Jones is set and they need an extra retractor or they need an extra whatever reamer, it's built in that says, okay, every time you schedule this case, Dr. Jones needs an extra. And we can track that as we put it into the system and validate that. So we built that in to where there's, explanation points on the platform that says, hey, you need to go read this before you do this. And so it's that tribal knowledge that bites you, to be honest with you.
Right.
And we still have some of it. I'm not going to lie. When an account guy becomes an expert at an account, he's an expert, right? And so I think we've probably saved 2 or 3 different companies that were struggling logistically and allowed them to grow. I have 3 or 4 examples to where once we took over logistically, their inventory, their sales have doubled since, and they'll flat out say it's because we can get our stuff on a timely manner now.
Right. And what's the deadline for an East Coast delivery? An East Coast shipment?
We have to have it like 3:30, 4 o'clock Arizona time. So what is that, 7 o'clock East Coast time?
Yeah.
And we have asked, so we also have a national contract with a national courier company that can reach any part of the United States on every holiday. They have yet to fail, other than in a really ridiculous blizzard last year. They just weren't able to get there. They're able to deliver same day, so it's next flight out and deliver door to door.
Okay. One last question. Sorry to commandeer the discussion. So the data that comes out of your system, does that come like in a CSV file so we can enter it into like our QuickBooks or to our financial system? Is that how that
Yeah,
works?
so that's a good transition for me. I'll go to Ortho Books. So Ortho Books was founded to do that. Okay, so we, in a lot of the companies that we do business with, we are also their accounting group. Okay, so then we'll do invoicing for them. We'll do their books for them. We'll deposit the money in the bank, write commission checks. We'll do all of that for them. But to your point, you have full access to the data. So you can go look at it and you can go download it, CSV, Excel. We can even build an API if you really need to, and that's what you want to do. But a lot of times there's some there's some cost associated with that. And as a startup, there's no reason to outlay that cash when the amount of time you're going to spend I call it swivel chair from Sergio to your accounting software. The ROI on it is just not enough to do the API. So that's where my fault is this, as I'm brutally honest, when it comes to certain things. And I look at everything is, okay, well, you want this done. Well, what's the ROI on that, right? So you're going to invest this in it, but are you ever going to spend that amount of money for this to be an advantage for you, right? And we built the software package that way also. Like people well, I want RFID tags on everything and all my instruments and in every one of my tubs. And then I'll say, well, you just doubled the cost on your implant because of the tracking. There's no ROI on it. And so that's where I'm that guy sometimes. It's the way it goes.
One last question, sorry. Collections. You're invoicing, do you have a collections department as well?
Yeah, we'll do collections, but what we do is we demand that you provide us an SOP, and typically we'll reach out to your sales leaders because a hospital, okay, I've got way too much experience at this. So a hospital could be a key account and you could have a key surgeon there and they could be struggling financially. And you don't want me sending a demand letter or a cutoff letter or cash only letter without talking to the distributor and or the sales leader first. Okay. Right. And so it has to be a team approach and it has to because if not, I could screw up one of your biggest accounts and you could lose $1 million in revenue. And we're very cautious because we view ourselves as partners. And so there'll be a very large discussion before we go out and put a demand letter out, put someone on cash hold or put them on hold or not ship them implants. But yes, the answer to your question is yes. But there's a whole bunch that color that has to go along with that.
Okay. But it is something that's possible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Collections. So, Tom, what do you do for warehousing fulfillment right now?
We have our own little warehouse. It's not a big warehouse. Products, these products are pretty small. And we have one logistics person at this point. Our volumes, that's really all we need at this stage, but we are, rapidly growing. And so I can see this making a lot of sense for us because we're going to have to scale, not so much on the physical plant, but on the human capital at some point. So.
Yeah, so a lot of the companies that I've brought on and started are in the same spot you are, Tom. So what happens is they have one operations person and they're responsible for demand planning and contract manufacturing, and then they're responsible for logistics and that. And so what happens is that job becomes overwhelming for them, right? And something's got to fail. And typically it's the inventory management piece of it. So they lose visibility of your inventory or that starts to become a struggle. And then that's where you run into that. So when I deal with companies that are in this problem, and I can point to 3 different companies that we've done this with, I always just say, you know what, repurpose that person to do, kind of the demand planning, the manufacturing side of it. Let us handle the logistics and the operations portion of it. That way you don't have to fire that person. You repurpose the person. Right. You don't have to go out and find a bigger warehouse or a bigger office and then do all the shelving and everything else at that point in time. That's typically where we end up, and we're able to solve that problem.
So again, I guess I keep coming with questions, guys. So tell me to shut up.
Keep going.
Do you deal with any public companies?
What do you mean public? Like publicly traded?
Publicly traded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the flow, if I were to ship this directly from the sterility, the company does all of our sterility, we can do that just directly to you. Okay.
Yeah, you just ship it into us, then we'll inventory it. We validate that everything's there. We put it on the shelf, make it available. We're able to handle recalls. We're able to handle any type of holds, disposal, all of that. We work based on your instructions, right? And so if you say don't release it, it doesn't get released.
Yeah.
If you say put it in hold, put it in hold. If you say return it back to the contract manufacturer, we'll return it back to the contract. So again, we mirror your SOPs. And so I have a quality person, I have a quality consultant. And so what we do is we'll bring in your SOPs, we'll train on them and move forward with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Tony, did I hear you take dirty instrument trays back and you clean them and inspect them? Okay, no, that's
I will
a
not
line
take
you don't
dirty,
cross.
but if I get a dirty tray, I have a process to handle it. First off, I yell at someone. No, that's not what I do. Just kidding. So we have a process for fixing that problem that comes in, and then we would have a conversation with the distributor in the hospital saying, "Hey, listen, we got a dirty tray back," but we're able to clean it, get it back to what we call debritless, and then send it back out. So that's what our SOPs.
Yeah, it's probably the exception.
I think I know that we've had 3 instruments come back in 6 years.
Wow.
And they're all cannula. You pull them out, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. The cannulated stuff is always dirty.
cannulated, and it's not a big deal. We get stuff with like cement on it or other things. We'll scrape off the bioburden, make sure it's clean, and we'll go through the washing procedure to make sure that one and it didn't contaminate anything, but we'll do the full inspection on it.
Do you handle like loaner fees? Is that part of the ortho book? So if, some companies charge a distributor if they are holding on to an instrument too long and they're not turning cases, as a rent, basically a rent, I guess, an instrument rent.
Yeah, we haven't had someone ask us to do it, but it's built into where we would be able to do it because of the way Surgio Health, as you can see here, is in front of you. The case management portion of it, we track it as a national loaner, and then we would track to see if it comes back on time and the aging of it. So we have all the data that is needed, and we can dump that into ortho books. And then that could be, if you've engaged ortho books, that would be part of the commissions portion of it, or any type of calculation of financial management. Yeah, that's awesome. So,
I got another question, and I don't know exactly how to ask this, but most companies rely on distributors to, once it's out in the field, to get it to surgery, but what they find is they lose control of the inventory. So I remember going through audits at Wright Medical, and the distributor lost 50% of the inventory, just disappeared. It's because they were horse trading with other distributors, and it was not transparent. How do you get around that when it's out in the field? I guess disposable implants is one thing, sterile pack, but autoclave trays is probably a harder problem.
yes. So any instrument or instrument tray or implant that's sent out into the field is obviously tracked, right? So we have pictures, we have bill of materials, so they're all built into the Surgio Health platform. Okay. So if a distributor was to, let's say, request a consignment, so you authorized a consignment to it, we would take pictures of the consignment, catch it as in a case that we've assigned those instruments to them, and we transfer the instruments and implants to them, right? And then anytime that they did a case, that and an item is billed out, it's automatically updated. So the inventory is automatically updated with inside of Surgio Health. So at any given time, those instruments and implants should be their actual inventory. And that's one of the reasons why I beg startups to say, hey, don't try to do this on your own for the first year and a half until your one inventory person gets overwhelmed and then starts losing track of your inventory in the field. And then you have to dump it into us and we clean it up. I've done this at least 4 times. Okay. So we say, let us track it from the beginning because we'll know where it is all the time. And then when you want to do your yearly cycle count, we'll do a virtual cycle count for them. So we know what we've sent them. We have pictures of what we sent them. We have a consignment. Hopefully you executed a consignment agreement with them showing what they were consigned, right? And that's within the, and we hold that in the system also. And then we'll do a virtual count. Say, hey, take pictures of your trays for us, and we'll validate that the instruments are there. And then if you really wanted us to, we can send someone out and do an on-site cycle count for you. So that's how we kind of control that portion of it. And
Okay,
like
what
I
about
said,
HIPAA?
go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry, I cut somebody off.
I'm sorry.
No, Tom, go ahead, Tom.
What about HIPAA? Because these sometimes these scrub POs come in and it's got a patient's name and all that stuff.
If the hospital sends me a patient name, all I can do is make sure I don't put it in the system and record the name, right? I
Okay.
can, you know what I mean? If it was scanned in or provided, that there's nothing I can do about that. We are
Mhm.
HIPAA compliant. Sergio Health is HIPAA compliant.
Mhm.
But if we get one by mistake, there's not a ton we can do about it, right? We just try to stop it there and then not perpetuate the problem.
Mhm. Okay.
Tom, I think most companies get around that by just using patient initials, is my understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing about the scrubs, a lot of times are the patient sticker. So, some of the facilities have that patient's name. Some of them are coded, but that's that. So we'll get that. We'll get our scrub PO or scrub bill in patient sticker there, that obviously has all the implants and stuff that were used or the tissue or whatever. But I don't, again, for this to be super efficient for us, is that scrub bill would go directly to your company, and
Yep.
then so we won't know exactly what was sent. Obviously we would want to have access to that as well, but I just know what we go through from these distributors. You never
We get them all the
surprised
time.
when you see
Yes.
something.
To your point, yeah. So the bill sheet comes to us, or what you call the scrub, or
Yeah.
it comes to us, and typically goes to whoever's the customer service person at the company, so that
Yeah.
they, if we're not managing your accounting software, right,
Mhm.
you'd want to get a portion of it. You'd want to get that. So it gets sent to a specific email.
Yeah.
Typically, it's company@orthoex.com, whatever the name of the company is. We
Yeah.
establish that for you.
Okay.
And then you're able to reconcile. So if we're doing it, we'll reconcile Sergio versus your
Mhm.
accounting software, so that
Mhm.
you know that every billing that's represented in Sergio is represented in your accounting software, and vice versa. So you could cross-reference them.
Yeah. One last question that crossed my mind. You deal with every hospital basically, right? Between all
Yes.
these different companies.
Mhm.
So do you keep current, because you're invoicing, so you keep the current materials management or whoever it is that you invoice. So that record's kept up, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
so that at inside of Sergio Health, on top
Mhm.
of all this, is a light CRM. So every hospital, every surgeon, and
Mhm.
every distributor has contact information. You can build out all of that information so that it's there, right? And so it's not in a Rolodex or in a file
Yeah.
or wherever, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's all built in that contact information. And
Yeah.
then, like I said before, your Sergio Health account with us is actually your account. You're granting us access to it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you were ever to fire us, you take your Sergio data with you
Okay. Great.
and the account, to be honest with you. You just take us off the account.
Right.
You
Okay.
pay Sergio directly.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, curious, what CRM software do you guys use?
We use Sergio Health. There's a light CRM built in.
Oh, got it. Okay, you have your own little database. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
got it. Hey, Mark's up.
So, Anthony, first thing I got to say is, go Army, beat Navy.
No, no, absolutely
I'll
not.
start with that.
Yeah, that's
Speaking,
fair enough, though.
I
speaking
think you
of,
have it backwards too, Mark. Sorry.
really, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's normal. But speaking of somebody who owns a compliance company, most companies uh, give compliance kind of lip service, and especially medical device companies. And so, if you get something with PHI on it, do you scrub it or do you just keep it safe?
It's safe. We don't, unless the company wants us to scrub it. So if we were to get something, let's just say a bill sheet, and they want no PHI on it, right? They asked us to, we don't need PHI. Like, we
I
don't
know.
do anything with it. It's garbage to
No,
us.
it's a universal problem.
Right.
Because it always boils down to the lowest common denominator, which is a rep and a scrub tech in a room somewhere, and they don't care. They just want to get the case done, go home, or they want to get paid. So if you're ever interested, there is a UC Berkeley engineer in Utah that I help a lot, who has a software program that will completely scrub at the point of origin any
Really?
document or image or video. So in
That's
other
good to
words,
know. Yeah.
if you ever find yourself in a situation in which, somebody sent you a scrub sheet and had a name Tiger Woods. I mean, that's the only time anybody cares is when it's somebody famous. But if you ever want to scrub that, let me know and
Yeah,
I'll introduce you to her.
absolutely. I'll mention that to Sergio because Sergio House
It's a
also
good
has
I think it's a good idea
yeah.
and it's pretty cheap to do it. So only other thing I'll say is that inventory management, listening to this program today has been like what the VA calls prolonged exposure therapy for me. This is a very traumatic subject for any startup guy.
Mhm.
Also anybody who's ever been a distributor. I've had three very hard divorces from companies based on inventory, and it's just a nightmare. So
Yep.
how do you stack up with something like Global in Atlanta? Don't they
You
do
mean GMLX,
the same thing?
Hunter Fleetwood, and all those guys? Yeah. So I compete directly, friendly with them, right? So
Okay.
we were all both at Stryker together.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
we
Gordon's
we
group, right?
yeah, Gordon Ford. So we're friendly, to be honest with you. He'll refer business to me.
Got it.
If something were, I'll send him. I know the platform. I know GMLX's platform like the back of my hand. I know WebOps because I used it for 12 years. You know what I mean? And so fully versed in what they do. I don't have anything negative to say about them, but the difference between us and them is I believe we're more startup friendly. We're more intricate. We're more, we have a little bit more focus on the needs of the company that is trying to grow because we're part of an incubator, right? And so going back to our original slide, like this is our whole portfolio. Like we designed a group that helps companies grow their business and run their business. That's what it's part of. And so that mindset of that startup mindset sets us apart where they have Stryker, right? They have Stryker trauma, they have Stryker spine. They're linked to Stryker, right? So if you're competing with any product that goes with Stryker, they have it in their building. We're agnostic. And so that kind of separates us from GMLX. I don't have anything bad to say about them.
Of course. No, I was just curious.
That's the difference between us.
I was just curious because I'm in Atlanta and but I know the guys behind your organization too and Josh and everybody. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. Thanks.
No problem.
Asher, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did. I was going to comment on our experience with GMLX, but I realized this is being recorded, so I'm going to bite my tongue.
Good idea.
We can turn it off right now if you want. I can cut it right here and
Yeah,
we
I
go
don't know.
unplug
Yes.
anytime we want. But either way, your choice. So what third party are there third party providers that you guys partner with, Tony, that gives you extra capabilities? You mentioned FedEx, UPS, but
Yeah, and I have a couple courier companies that I do business with. And then I use Dawa Medical. So most of the companies on the call here are probably US based, but as you can see, I have 16 European clients. And so instead of building out my quality system to be a national importer, I use a company called Dawa Medical because they're experts at it. Okay. They manage over 80 to 100 companies. And so whenever we're taking imports in, they'll clear the commercial invoice for us. They'll deal with the brokerage. They deal with all of that. They do with all the FDA reporting, right? So if there's an adverse event and you need help, the European company needs help with the reporting, they'll do it all for us. But most US based companies have their own quality management group that will handle that, excuse me, and we'll work with them. But a lot of the European companies, obviously, there's a gap. And so we use Dawa. That's one of the third party vendors we use on a regular basis. But I think you've covered all the companies that we do business with. FedEx, UPS, DTH is our courier company. We have contracts with Southwest, Delta, United, American, so all of
Wow.
that.
And do the US clients sell in Europe, and do the European clients sell in the US?
All the European clients sell in the US. I don't
Okay.
believe I have any US clients that sell in Europe. One maybe.
Got it.
But I
And
do have a
so,
partner in Europe. They actually, I did a call with them 6 o'clock this morning with a company that wants to come to the US. They do exactly what we do. And they had their product line, their service line mirrors. And then there's also a consulting group that we know that will do what the MedTech incubator will do. So the incubator portion of it, that the MedTech Intel OSP advisors, there's a company over there that will do the exact same thing. And then there's a company that does the OrthoEx portion of it and the ortho books. It kind of, they're mirrored. And we have like a business relationship with them, so we do co-selling for each other.
so you manage the customs when it's
Yeah,
coming in
yeah,
from Europe.
we deal with all the customs and all of that. We pay, so we'll pay the brokerage fee, deal with customs getting in to the US and out if we need to. And then we just pass that through.
Got it. And you guys provide reporting on turns, so how often an instrument is used.
Yeah, we do have we have a inventory report that will show you par levels for all your inventory as needed, and then we also have we can also produce all kinds of turns reports because the data is all with inside of Sergio, so we can tell you how many times a tray's gone out, how many times it's been assigned to a case. We can do all of that. So that's something that most startup companies don't have visibility of. And
Yeah,
we do
exactly.
recommendations. I'll do recommendations. Like I said, when I got on the call, I'm brutally honest. So I'll tell you if your baby's ugly, just based on experience, because that's what a good partner should do, to be honest with you. I'll tell you if there's a better way to ship something. You know what I mean? Or if there's a better configuration, just based on experience. So
Got it. So you can tell a startup that you need to build more instrument sets because this implant's being used more than that implant.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
got it. Asher?
Yeah, I promise I'm not paid by Tony at all, but he actually helped us design our implant kits. We have sterile packed implants come in, prefixed cartons. So he helped us, guide us through the process of designing the kits to make sure that they're not only ergonomic for our reps, but they're actually really cost effective for us to ship with FedEx. And then figure out what's the best way to, do we ship 3 trays in one giant U-line tote or individual totes for each set? So it was super helpful that we would have had to spend, hundreds of dollars in consulting to hire someone to actually help us with that.
Interesting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Tony, there's a startup in this space called QMed Innovations. I think they're out of Canada, but anyway, look at it offline, but it's QMED Innovations. They actually they attach a sensor onto every reusable metal instrument tray, and it's got a battery inside, and
Yep.
it pings once a day to a cell tower anywhere in the world, and it provides the I interviewed Vic Nunes, the CEO, on my podcast. Anyway, the medical device client has a dashboard where they can see where all their inventory is on a daily basis. Do you guys have any sensors like that, or is it just?
We can incorporate any sensor that any company would want. And I think we've talked about this, and I think I alluded to this earlier. So in Sergio Health, we built a RFID platform for it that we could track instrument trays with inside of a hospital, because it's also a hospital platform. So I have extensive knowledge. I know the SMAID CEO really well, and there's a couple other platforms like QMed that do this. I will always argue this is, if you're going to employ me, right, I better know where your stuff is. Okay. And so what's the ROI? What are you going to get out of it? And what is your fear? Right. We've lost one tray in 6 years and it was because FedEx dumped it out of the box. And so unless you know what I mean? And so the risk and the reward, the ROI on that, you have to ask yourself what is the significant ROI on that, right? And so as a startup, I don't think you want to invest your capital in something of that nature. Now some of these bigger companies, the strikers and they may want to do it because they're struggling with just the number of movement, but it all depends on how much it's, how big of a problem it becomes.
Yeah, OrthoEx has got enough visibility where it's probably not needed for startup. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because of my own experiences with inventory is always like the eternal monster in the attic, literally going back to the military. I've always admired the profession and have made several really good friends at the PhD level in the last 10 years. And I was wondering if you could recommend which university system in the United States currently offers the best professional international logistics program, like, for example, telematics, which is I know a doctoral program that's being offered overseas, which combines big data analytics, logistics technology, communication technology, transportation technology, all wrapped under one roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that you're familiar with that.
To be honest with you, I would be lying if I said I was. I don't. So I'm not familiar with all of that portion of it.
Okay.
So yeah, most of mine is obviously my experience comes from FedEx and UPS and then Stryker.
Well, they're pretty damn good at it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So and when I came to the medical device, really quick caveat, and then I'll move on. I left FedEx where we would manage fractions of pennies. Okay, so every day as a senior manager, you had to do an analysis of your operation and what your operation cost, right? And so now we were managing down to fractions of pennies per package, right? And you had to answer to it if you were over budget. When I got to Stryker and I got into the medical device industry, I was appalled because we were managing $1,000 bills. And so then, over the years, I got it down to $100 bills, and then I made a company out of it. You know what I mean? To where now we have visibility of that operational cost. And so that insight, and one of the things I learned at Stryker is standardization. You know what I mean? And that's a hard thing to do in the medical device industry, but that's what we've done.
Interesting.
Well, I tell you what, speaking as a former aviator, standardization saves lives and that is the number one quality control thing that you can control.
Yeah. You have to be able to do 85-90% of what you're doing without like it has to be well oiled so that you can handle the 15% chaos.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, so we're kind of coming up at the top of the hour, and I asked Tony earlier before we got started, kind of what ask he would have of bone chatters. Said, you want to ask questions, maybe what other services are needed.
Yeah, as I think my statement to you was we have this medtech incubator, and we've got obviously you can see each one of the lines of service that we have. What's missing? Like what else do startups need that isn't being answered by the portfolio that we present?
So does the OSP advisors, do they do new product development, like take concepts to turn into products?
That's the other side of the fence. No, we stay away from that side.
Got it. That's one. Here, Asher's got an answer.
Yeah, I think we've actually talked about this a little bit with Josh. I think a lot of the back end support of setting up the corporate infrastructure. So, everything from like how your board should be structured, raising capital to avoid issues with, hospitals seeing a surgeon on your cap table, any kind of registrations you have to do with, local cities, states, or federal governments, just to make sure that you can actually operate as a medical device company. Maybe not getting into patent law, but just having like a couple patent lawyers who you can refer out to, just so that effectively outside of the product development side, you guys can kind of support, every aspect
Yeah.
of building that early stage startup.
Yeah. Yeah, most of that we got covered right now. So that's kind of all falls under that corporate structure. And I think we saved a couple companies, quite a bit of effort by helping with that corporate structure. So that's one of the things that falls under that medtech incubator. But the lawyer thing, the patent lawyer, that would be one. Yeah.
I mean, the common thread where all startups struggle when they reach commercialization is how do you build a sales force? When you have 5 employees or 10 employees and you've got to start selling around the country. How do you build a sales force? And we had this topic on BoneChat many weeks ago. That's a really hard one. And then the other one beyond that is the value analysis committees that everybody's struggling with.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the call I was on or the meeting I was on right before I jumped on this call. That was the topic, right? And so the topic was for a new startup company coming to the US to get in groundwork, right? So we know it's 6, 9, 12, 15 months to get on a VAT committee, get through a VAT committee to get on pricing, right? You know that. So how do you go about generating revenue, right? So you have to find KOLs that are not really attached. You got to go out into the rural areas. There's certain things you got to do, right, to work around and work within the system so that you can start generating sales while you're waiting to get on some of these contract prices.
So you seek out shorter sales processes on
Yeah.
purpose for cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's honestly where the medtech intel comes into play, because then they can identify, what product lines are being sold at what hospitals and what surgeons are doing particular cases in particular markets. And so now you can identify your, where you're going to go find a distributor in a market because there's a surgeon that, can use your product because the environment's perfect for him and he has control because it's a smaller market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been really good. Dennis, you have anything? You've been quiet. All right, he's good. All right,
I appreciate it.
we're at the top of the hour. Yeah, this has been.
I just learned a lot. I got a
We
full
all learned a
education,
lot.
Anthony. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, I can't imagine if you're a startup and you're commercializing something in 12 months, I can't imagine why you wouldn't use a service like this.
I couldn't either. And I might be taking advantage of it. That's why I was listening.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate it.
And I think Tom Kender is certainly interested too. He's the CEO of Subchondral Solutions. He ships little tiny implant boxes around all over the country.
Yes,
all right. Well, thanks, Tony. This is great.
Yeah, I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming on.
I appreciate the time. I appreciate all the questions too. So
Yeah, good
thank you
discussion.
guys. Have a
See you
great one.
guys.